our gratitude to Professor K.P. Sudheer for chairing the section, and heartfelt thanks to our keynote speaker for delivering such enlightening talks. The perspectives have encouraged us to contemplate the significance of water from various angles. Now, we will start the panel discussion on the theme Forests for Water Security. This discussion will be insightful with a distinguished panel of experts who will share the perspectives on this critical topic.
Thank you. You want to say anything more? If it is an introduction to the speakers, I don't think it's required now because we have already introduced all of them. I would also not take much time. When you say panel discussion on a given topic, so normally the practice is you give 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes each to the panelists and then opening to the discussion. But if you look at the talks given by all three of them, except Krishnakumar sir in the morning, but he has also mentioned, all of them were touching upon the forest and the relationship to the water. So if you can have a quick remark on maybe like wanted to wind up kind of summarizing what you want to say, then we'll go for the discussion mode rather than continuously one-way direction. We will go in the two-way direction with questions and input from the audience as well. So I would first request Dr. Krishnakumar to give his opening remarks for the topic.
Thank you, Dr. Sudheer. As a school student, I remember one quote that often strikes me. From cradle to coffin, man is indebted to forests and trees. Trees means water, water means bread, and that's life. The essence of our talk since this morning has been centered around water, because we know for sure if trees are not there, there's no food, and if water is not there, there's no trees, and vice versa. Trees and water have a big connectivity, and humans can't stand alone. Now, having heard all these wonderful speakers this morning, there's not much from our side, but we are all keen on replying to your questions. I'm sure the youngsters will have something to say, and we'll try to genuinely answer your requests, because experience sometimes speaks. The volume of experience Dr. James has, and my good friend Sen, and of course Dr. Sudheer, and Pramod has just left. So now the forum is open, and then I will conclude with a small comment later on. But anyone in the audience can ask any questions on forests for water, security, stability, and sustainability. You can center your questions around this, or anything around water is acceptable to us. Thank you.
Any opening remark by the panelists? No? We'll open it for discussion. Because most of the things we have actually discussed, and now based on the discussion points, we will take up all of the points. So, floor is open for discussion. So, anybody who wants to raise any questions. Some of them don't want to say the names and then go to questions here, but then I'll take it up one by one later. Maybe we can start with asking directly.
Thank you, sir. Two questions. It's not to a specific person on the dais, but then it's a combination of information given by many people. The first thing, interestingly, Dr. Sumit Sen told that transpiration loss is not a loss. It is a sharing of resource, and it is going to be used. And when Dr. James was presenting, he showed the graphs saying that Silent Valley has a large number of rainfall days. So my question is, what is the source of water, of rainfall in Silent Valley? Is it transpiration of water which goes up and falls down right there, or is it water coming from the Arabian Sea canal? So that's the first question. The second is regarding a remark made by Dr. Krishnan on trenches which were made to stop the elephants, and how the trenches damaged the water flow process to the vines just outside the forest. In fact, the whole of Kerala, this is happening. In this particular campus, this is a long hill on which we have a corridor, and it is sloping to both the sides. and we had a road here. The road was okay for a long time, but currently the road has been removed and there's a huge drainage line opening up. So now what is going to happen is that the water is flowing from our campus is going to all the way down to the mountain and going to the river Trident, the place on the other side. So do we have any institutional mechanism which gives information to other departments like irrigation, PWD, agriculture, from the hydrological point of view? How to have a hydrological sense of things when they do big projects like roads or big infrastructure things. So these are the two concerns.
Yeah, interesting question, Dr. Sachi.
I find the reason for more rainfall in Silent Valley is attributed to the orographic effect. What I'm saying is that I don't contribute to the view that because of the evapotranspiration it comes down. No. It's a dynamic system. I don't think that is going to come down there. So the peculiar orography of Western Ghats has been the reason for more rainfall there. And it has been happening there for several years, during which period the so-called biodiversity and forests, the peculiar forests. What I wanted to say that you've got 4 types of forests within 16 square kilometer of area. That has come up only because of a long period of high rainfall, which is mainly caused by the orographic effect. I think that partly answers your question, and I don't contribute to this saying that evaporates. No.
Thank you, Dr. James. And yeah, just to add to the point what you mentioned in the second part, like what I mentioned, that evapotranspiration is not a loss for that particular system. It is a part which is also going into the atmosphere, which will contribute outside. So I'm also not sort of contradicting what Professor James basically is talking about. But the idea is, the thought process what I was trying to bring is that there is a research questions for the new generation to take it up and then see. And there are now science to take and to present it, right? So we talk about isotope analysis. So there is a huge advancement in the science, so where we can do this isotope analysis. Okay, where is this water coming from? And so idea is to basically to try to decipher the complexity in the system and where is this water going and how it is going. In Himalayas there is a lot of good questions to be asked, and very surely in this topography also. The system movement. So we talk about like where is this cloud, which is what Professor James mentioned. Okay, where is this? This is orography. So where is this moisture coming from, and how it is coming, and how it is lending the water or is rainfall. So that's the question that I was asking. Yeah.
One more word I want to add. Nothing is a loss. We call one as a green water, the other as a blue water. For example, the water which is taken by the plants and then released, we call it a green water. And the water which is flowing in the stream and water which is stagnated in the wetland or lakes, we call it as blue water. So what we have to do is that when we are talking about the forest conservation, there should be a balance of blue water and green water ensured in the catchment area, if you can. Then there will be no problem for any type of water. What happens is that if you have got a lot of greenery and no blue water, it can happen. So today we can estimate it and then say that what should be the quantum of green water we should have and what is the plants, and then so that's what you can have. And you can have an idea about what water you want to flow in this and all that. But I don't want to talk anything about the grey water and the black water.
Thank you.
I wanted to add, Dr. Sachi, there was an interesting study conducted by the University of Illinois, USA. The study was actually where are they getting the rainfall from, which cloud brings the rainfall from. They conducted the hydrodynamics of the cloud movement and used the technique which Sumit mentioned about the isotope technology, and they found that the water which is actually getting evaporated from the nearby state, from the farm fields, not only from the forest but from the farm fields, primarily contributes a lot of evapotranspiration, which gets transported to the state and then brings it down. And it is published. But then the second side of it is the state which is contributing water started filing a suit in the public saying that they should pay for us because you are getting more water because of us. So there are studies which has taken part. Now there is also a point of virtual water trade. When you import food grains and fruits to other countries, you are actually transferring water. Not only the water content of the grain or the product. If you look at the life cycle of the product, the agricultural product, it's a huge amount of water which has been utilized for cultivation and producing it. So the entire water is virtually getting transported to the next country, and soon a virtual water trade cess is going to get implemented by and United Nations have started thinking about it. More because the importance of water is coming into that level. And regarding your question on trenches, I think Dr. Krishnakumar is the right person to answer.
Dr. Sajid, it's not that you don't know. The trenches came as an immediate answer when we had this man-wildlife conflict, particularly elephants, right those days. The World Bank experience, the Africa experience, they all probably thought that the best way to keep out wildlife, particularly elephants, is to have trenches. Now what Dr. Pramod was telling is Parviculum and all the wild areas where probably trenches lay had resulted in issues. See, we also know that most of us work in silo, and I feel that we can't sometimes wait for research. Managers are forced to take quick decisions because immediately to keep the wildlife out. We know now that electric fences is no answer because elephants have learned to come out of electric fence, hanging fences. They also, see, like we do research and come out with the late replies. Elephants do early research and probably they know how to tackle these things. So while we take up situations in the field, parallel research should be also going on, and probably research should find first solutions and give it to the managers on ground so that it becomes a win-win scenario everywhere. While you rightly said today, as Pramod also said that we find trenches causing problems everywhere, particularly around wilds. Now for the last 5 to 7 years, I don't think anybody is working on trenches. All forest departments all over the country, they've stopped trenches and they are looking for all other ways of looking at it. Now probably what do we do with the trenches that we've already made should be the other way of thinking now. I do not know if I've answered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Nadu Chairman.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And in fact, Pramod also should have been here. One of the question or one of the issue he has raised is evidence-based research, data, all these things. Where is data? If you look at it, the history of data, there is no dearth for data. First, only thing is that there is no proper analysis or proper usage of data. We were having, if you look at the forest department, data were there almost 150 years of history. Data is there, data is collected, forgotten. Not this thing. Similarly, our institutions, 50 years of almost have. We have a lot of data that is gone. And if you look at the history of remote sensing, every day we are having data, but it is underutilized or unutilized. So only question is that if you start using it properly, we can give salaries for the entire staff of the government of Kerala, if you want to have, and pension for the rivers. Even then, there will be much more better this thing. We have to only properly use the thing, because we are now wasting it. People are going there, collecting data with a lot of troubles and forgetting it. If you change it, there will be plenty of and useful information. And it can be implemented. It is question of implementation. Sanjeev was talking about the trenches. In fact, we were monitoring forest department activities right from the beginning. Court supervised all these things. Data is there. At that time, because very often there is difficulty in publishing it because there are limitations. But data is there, data is forgotten. It is kept and it is just paper data and it is thrown out. Data is there and it is just made with a lot of effort and it is there. If you just take a village officer, how much data is collected? And if you use it properly, this is the 11th Panchayat. All research institutions. We have plenty of research institutions and manpower here. There is no connectivity. Sumit Sen was talking about conifers, oak and broadleaf and this thing. How it is affecting this? And in fact, I was talking to Krishnakumar about how it is our experiments. Actually, if you relate it, that relation is not there. That is the problem. Everybody is there. James Harris' old story with the old data, he has presented beautifully. That presentation or impact to the decision maker, Chief Minister, that is not coming. Prime Minister, that is not. That we have to, so because since Principal Secretary is there, we can influence the government and take the right decision. Because science and technology, because we have got historically the best science and technology department and institutions in India. Unfortunately, if you look at this thing, data is not utilized. We are rebuilding the institutions. That has to change.
Yeah, that's a good point you have suggested, because I think that was one of the responses of Pramod Krishnan's statement also. We need more and more studies to reinforce whatever be the discussions happening in public, because evidence-based analysis has to be done, which is to be taken up by the researchers across the state. Thank you, sir. And for information to the audience who have gathered here, Dr. Nandakumar was one of the eminent scientists of KFRI. He has retired and now he is working for a different organization.
So we discussed about the importance of data and the difficulty in collecting the data. So I would like to ask, is there any suggestion or recommendation, like how many monitoring points or how much we should be selecting for a particular forest type or a particular forest type of some area to give a conclusive comments on the data?
So adding to that, the data sharing platform should be there. So there are so much of data is there, but data sharing platform is not there. And another thing is that, as you sir pointed out, that there is no hydrological data after the 2018 flood. We don't have any SRTM satellite data freely available on USGS site or no. So it is only 2000 data is available, 2000 year data is there. Only no new data is available for free access. So that's it, that type of constraints are there, so that we cannot make meaningful evidences from the inaccessible area like forest. Okay. So that is very important. New data should be given to the new generation people, especially the people that are doing research. That should be done very fastly. And another thing is that there is a question raised in my mind is that whether the rainfall distribution pattern has any role in human-animal conflict.
Well, rainfall pattern, I don't know whether you can still say there is an influence in the human-animal conflict, because it still need to be analyzed. I think that is one of the things which we are all worried about and then taking on. The other point of data availability in public, government of Kerala is coming up with a data sharing policy very soon. Government of India has already come up with a policy. So Government of Kerala is also coming up, it's in the discussion mode now. And all these data, primarily the government is feeling that, well, that is an input from science and technology to the government, which they are looking at the policy level decision decisions, because they know that unless data is available for any analysis, you won't get policy level suggestions to the government. So they are seriously looking into it. In fact, water resources availability data is now freely available. The irrigation department has started giving it freely, and industry-based database is available with the Pollution Control Board. Maybe the forest-based data, because of some information that cannot be shared, they are having some difficulty now, but I think soon they will come up with a policy that has taken us. And regarding Surya's question, I think Sumit will be the right person to answer it, but mostly all these experimental studies, we do design according to the experimental plot design concept, which is statistically driven. But anyway, Sumit has done a lot of field experiments, so he will be able to throw some light.
Thank you, Dr. Sudheer. Yeah, Surya, it's a good question, and Dr. James has also have a lot of experience in it. But my take for that is, we still, in India, we still lack in the part of experimental hydrology or experimental watersheds, which sometimes Dr. James did show the data of maybe 1980, no, which year? 2000? Which year you showed the data? So, but I'm very sure it has been done very hard, like very much hard work is there, but how long it has been maintained? Maybe not. 3 years, 5 years, right? So that legacy data, that is what we are lacking. Because, and that is what we do have in European system. Professor James talked about that Way watershed and the Plymouth watershed. 25 years, right? So watersheds in US, huge 40 year, 50 year data. That is what something which we would like to have, at least my interest also, to like to have this type of experimental watersheds, which institutions like KFRI and all can take up, because that's the legacy they can really can maintain. As an individual researcher, it's hard. I think, and then your locations as per the need. Yeah, thank you.
Only one thing I just wanted to say is that with regard to hydrological data, if you're talking about, we have to design a network based on whatever topographical features are there and whatever stream configuration is there. All these things will have to be taken into, and what is the purpose for which you want the data? What is the duration of data you want? And what is the depth of data you require for your analysis? And what is the type of accuracy? You want to go for an automatic station? You want to have a manual station? Or you want to still IoT enable the data coming to your table to analyze and then come out? So what I will suggest is that we should know our problem clearly. And for our problem, what is needed, because India is not a rich country like the United States or so, we cannot have such network of stations and things of that sort. So knowing our reasons, we will have to design our network of stations and then collection of data. While talking about data, one thing which I thought that I think Sudheer can take an initiative in this, at least Kerala state is concerned. We are having policies on one side, that's good, but how to have a data warehouse and where you've got both metadata and the actual data and how it can be, whether it reaches the public or not, how even the government departments can have it. For example, I'll tell you, it was really a sad experience which I had. You know, from 1964 onwards, we started it with the US Army Corps of Engineers support to collect data on coastal data on Kerala. The manual observation of wave height and then all those. Such a lot of money has been spent by Kerala government from 1964 to this day. Now, one of the students, one of the chief engineers of Kerala was doing his PhD with me after his retirement. And I told him, you, this is your department, you go and collect the data from the department and we will try to analyze. No problem from the department too. And I found that data for at least 20 years or 30 years, they said that in shifting and maybe anything which is lost we attribute to white ants. I have not seen a white ant so far. I don't know where it is, but we attribute to white ants. It is eaten by white ants, and we cannot have the data. So very sorry state, because we have collected the data for last more than 6 decades, and more than 3/4 of that data is missing. And we started collecting this data. At that time, missionaries, they brought people from US Army Corps of Engineers to streamline the data collection procedure. So it should not happen anymore. In all our research stations, whatever data is there, let us start with that, compiling one place. All our research stations data in one place. Whether it is on forest, whether it is on hydrology, whether it is on transportation, forget about that. We classify it and then use it. And add on to that data, and our data bank should be, data management system should be akin to Industry 4.0, which we are talking about. It should be data analytics and all that we are talking about. It should be compatible to that. We have to start thinking of it very seriously. Once the data is, historical data is lost, we cannot have it anymore. It's lost forever. So that's my.
So there is an initiative from the government side for that, all these things, repository and digitization of the data so that it will not be lost. All those things are happening, but then, you know, it takes a little while to become bigger.
Yeah. So I believe Mr. Sudheer mentioned that moving ahead we are going to experience more extreme events. That means we'll experience a high volume of precipitation for a shorter span. And James sir mentioned that he observed an increased stream flow in forests with higher density in Silent Valley. So my question is that if we are able to somehow harvest this extreme events, that is this higher volume of precipitation that we are going to experience in the future using reservoirs or any sort of hydraulic structures exclusively to regulate or partially regulate the stream flow, wouldn't that have a reverse osmosis effect to increase the vegetation and its density and the density of forest in areas with forests having lesser density?
There is a history for Silent Valley. You know, Silent Valley was declared as a national park by Indira Gandhi at that point of time, based on certain specific issues which were happening. The Kerala State Electricity Board identified Silent Valley for a 750 megawatt installed capacity tidal power station. And if such a power station comes there, we thought that it may not be congenial for the ecosystem of Silent Valley, which is not much exploited by anybody. And there was a group of people in Kerala who went on a revolt, I'll say revolt, and stopped the dam from coming, because we thought that if such a dam is coming, the whole area will be improper. And many committees were constituted. Finally, Indira Gandhi constituted a committee to have a compromise on whether hydropower or a national park. Selim Ali was the chairman, if I remember correct. You know Selim Ali, I suppose. You should know. Okay, you should know. Google and find out who is Selim Ali. Okay, fine. At the end of the day. So, the committee decided that we will not go for the hydroelectric project. We will have a national park. And it was declared as a national park. 78, somewhere near 1970. That's the time when I came to Kerala. I told you. So it was declared as a national park. That's the background of that. So there is no need for us to have big dams, etc. in that area. All that water conserved is coming down in summer through Gundipura. Okay? When it comes down, wherever you want to have interventions, you can have interventions, storages, you can have storages. It is also being utilized by people because, so that is happening. So let us not always think of engineering solutions. Okay? Let us have solutions other than engineering also. I am an engineer for the last 60 years, so don't worry about it. Not 60 years, 55 years. Don't worry about it. But engineers have got their role to play, they let them play their role. We as human beings have got a role to play that we will have to play also.
Can you not come from bioengineering?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, adding to that, I think there are engineering solutions as well. In the case of Madhya Pradesh, one of the areas where it's going to get hit more on the water deficit because of the climate change is the central India part. Specifically, we did a study for the Madhya Pradesh Narmada Basin, and we realized that the frequency of extreme events are going to get increased, and also the drought is going to be more and more prominent and frequent. So the Madhya Pradesh government wanted to get a solution for that, and they were actually willing to. See, in Kerala, the whole problem is we do not have sites for constructing reservoirs. Enough sites are there. But then Madhya Pradesh, they were willing to construct reservoirs, and we went and did a study, identified the locations for 3 more reservoirs in addition to what is existing, and they constructed it. Now, in deficit time, they have enough water stored in the reservoirs. One of the problems when you have extreme rainfall events is you do not get enough time for the natural processes which normally happens in the hydrological cycle, because most of the water goes out as runoff. So you need to take that and then bring it as a storage, bring it into the storage structure and conserve it. So there are solutions, but then again, you should not be disturbing the natural ecosystem by constructing more and more engineering hydraulic structures. That's what I think Dr. James was also mentioning. Right?
Sir, 2 more minutes if we can give, I will clarify one thing. Just I'll take 2 minutes, Dr. Sudheer, but still I'll have to tell you. There's a place called Loktak in Manipur. Okay, there engineers from Kerala were involved in it. They constructed a barrage, making a group of wetlands into one large water body. They did not know what they were doing, engineers at that time. Then what happened? There is one area where you have got 40 square kilometers, where you have got something which is floating on a vegetal matter, a brow-antlered deer. They call it Sangai deers. And these Sangai deers are endangered. There were only 23 in number. Okay? At that particular time, I was called by the then chair of UNEP and told me, can you go there and then solve the problem? I said, what is the problem? I have no idea about zoology, I have no idea about botany. They said that you can solve the problem still. I went there. Okay, I found that this water is being diverted for a hydroelectric scheme. So I tried to do a hydrographic survey. I found that this Kibble Lecture National Park, only floating national park in the world, okay, is having little higher land mass, over which you have got water now. It has become acidic, and brow-antlered deer sangais have started dying. Then I thought of manipulating this water by a reservoir operation. I found that this can be kept over the water level for 1 month during summer, so that this vegetation will touch the bottom, get nourished, and the habitat of brow-antlered deers will not be. And they said that you have to negotiate it with the the National Hydropower Corporation. I went and then talked to him. The chief engineer was very considerate. He said that we will operate it the way you want it. He started operating. Today you have got more than 300 sung ideas. From 20, it went to 300 sung ideas. And it is an engineering solution which has helped the biodiversity to be conserved. So engineers have a role to do. That they will have to do when it has to be done. Otherwise, they should not go and interfere everywhere and then go and okay, fine, good.
I think there are several questions which was given to me from the audience. I'll try to merge couple of them because there are similar theme in the questions. One of the questions probably I think I'll pose it to again Dr. James. With the change in climate scenario, what we are experiencing these days, what are the conservation strategies and techniques which are possibly to be done at the home ground, at the home, basically at every individual's responsibility at the home, so that the sustainable water availability is assured, not to depend on the water supply from the government derivatives. So primarily the water conservation strategies and techniques.
All of us had traditionally a water conservation system practiced in this part of the world, which is evolved through our experience. You had the small homesteads where you had a variety of plants which are indigenous to our place, not rambutan and there are other things which you have brought from elsewhere. We had our own plants indigenous to the Western Ghats or indigenous to this region, cultivated in our small watersheds. This we can go for easily. And we had, in our own homesteads, we used to have, we take the basins around the coconut trees, allow water to permeate to the groundwater and reach out the groundwater table, and allow it to be filled when the October month comes. And we had our own system of conserving water in our homesteads by having channels all around the campus and water conserved in that during the monsoon season. And we had mulching system, traditional, I don't know whether you know about it, Kulibuta is a system which we used to have. That is for the soil moisture to be maintained. And during summer, they just cut it. That will be the plants. Okay. We had our traditional system of conservation in our homesteads. And please don't be attracted by the concrete buildings, which requires more water, and whatever falls on the concrete roof, it drains away. It floods. It creates floods. Try to recharge more groundwater so that it will be conserved there and can be used for. Kerala has got, as I have said, 66 lakh open wells. That is AWRDM statistics. 66 lakh open wells. These open wells will have to be recharged by your homestead management practices. If you can recharge this, we don't require any more water from anybody for drinking at least. Okay, 66 lakh open wells. We have got 64 lakh families in Kerala. So there may be some people having 2 or 3 open wells, but if you distributed it, we still have wells more than the number of families. Have you ever thought of recharging this groundwater in your open wells and properly maintaining it, sanitizing it and all that? If you have not, if you had done it, 85% of these open wells would not have become bacterially contaminated. Okay? By putting on a good white shirt and then coming here doesn't make me hygienic and healthy. By drinking correct good water makes me hygienic. 85% of the people in Kerala who are depending on open wells are drinking bacterially contaminated water. Can we stop it? Can we sanitize this? Can we take care of our open wells? These are small things which each one of us can do. And this is conservation. This is research. I can go on talking, but I don't want to do that. Once for all, I am giving it to Sudheer.
Yeah, I think if you start talking about water, there will not be any end to it. There is an interesting question, probably Dr. Krishnakumar can answer this. I am again combining these questions. The first part of the question is, there are a lot of invasive species in Kerala. What will be the impact of them on the groundwater table? And connected to that, the global warming is primarily leading to a decline of the evergreen forests, and will it also get an impact on the water table?
Thank you, that is a good question. Invasive alien species is the issue that's looming large in the forest. I'll have probably Dr. Sajeev also to support me. But our research has shown, at least in the Nilgiris, where we have battle, which is called Acacia, Yalbata, decorans, and such species, where probably the intensity, the root intensity of these invasives are very high. They probably, and then the penetration also becomes very important. We know invasives definitely can gulp more water than probably the native species, which has sustained water. The initial research definitely says any fast-growing species, that's probably one of the reasons against eucalyptus also. So we probably need to do in-depth root architecture study of all these invasive species, is what I feel. But wherever the forests are clogged by the invasives, overgrown, definitely there's water stress, and it is a serious problem. It does take more water than native species. This is our initial understanding. Am I right, Dr. Sajeev?
Yeah, I can add a point.
Yeah.
KSRI had done studies precisely to answer this question: how much is the impact of exotic species on the water table? We conducted a study long back, comparing many different species, including native, many exotics. So it was a time at which there was a big problem against acacia plantations. Acacia was planted in a big way. Now what happened was that the study focused on the transpiration loss from per unit area of the leaf. We compared many different species. And interestingly, the study came out with a result saying that the cashew transpires more water than acacia. But the problem which was missed was that the way in which the plants were distributed. Wherever acacia was planted, it was in a packed manner. It was a large number of samples in a small area. So the cumulative impact would have been much, much higher, which means missed in that particular study. So we need more studies on that, especially in the mountain systems. The grasslands are being invaded. The grasslands roots are now going to be penetrating into the areas where it has not gone there. The grass is being replaced. So that is going to be big impact.
Okay, I have a question here, probably targeted to Sumit. While you were introduced, it was mentioned about you have done some study on spring sheds, but you never talked about spring sheds. So can you give a light on that?
Thank you. Yeah, I think spring shed has been a very core area of my work when I started working in IIT Roorkee. So springs, what I did again, I normally tell to my students we don't do rocket science. We just do a simple science which can be implemented. And in springs, when in Himalayas and the springs, and especially outside in the Western Ghats, we do have the springs which are the local sources of water for the local community. And because these local hamlets, they are living on the hilltops. And they are mainly dependent, especially in the lean season, they are mainly dependent upon these springs, and springs are dry. When I came to Roorkee or joined as a assistant professor there, so I've been hearing the word that okay, springs are dry in Himalayas as well as like Himalaya as such, like pan-Himalaya, Nepal, Bhutan, all those areas. But the blame was directly given to changing climate, that is rainfall variability, and the land use land cover change. But no one was really having, okay, what is the response of this springs as per the rainfall pattern? So that's where I started working on. So I started monitoring those springs in a continuous way, in a simple hydrometry system where we put the flume, water level sensor, and the rainfall rain gauge in that vicinity, just to see which rainfall is basically behaving, which springs are different. They are hydrogeological. Dr. Krishnan was hydrology. So springs are like typologies, we call it. Karst springs, contact springs, fracture springs. So that is what we are trying to study pan-Himalaya from Mizoram, Uttarakhand, Himachal, and how they are responding with different rainfall pattern. And then the land use curve. Because above the spring, if it is in the forest area, they might be good, but if it is above the area which is above spring, it is agriculture or hamlet, then it is different. And the bacterial impacts are also very much prevalent in the springs in the Himalayas. So that is what small things which we are doing, but a lot of interesting. It tells you about the aquifer property also in the Himalayan system. How much water is being stored and how it is releasing in a lean season. That is the simple science what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sumit. So we have two more questions. I think one question probably we have answered in the discussion by itself. The question is about the sudden drinking water scarcity in the Bangalore city. What could be the reasons? I guess I have mentioned about it. It was the monsoon season was very dry. There was even though water stored in the reservoirs is fully consumed, and I would also add to that, they did not anticipate this kind of a shortage in future, and they were supplying water without any conservation practices. They were supplying as usual. Now they have actually, along with the experts, they have learned that like they need to proactively distribute the water to the needy people. In considering that there won't be much of a water available in the future, so probably they will come up with it's very similar to the flooding situation what we have faced in Kerala. We never experienced or anticipated similar flooding earlier, so we were not prepared. So, but now after 2019, I think we never had a situation where there was flooding for continuous periods, and the reservoirs were operated very nicely with the operation conditions developed. So we have avoided critical flooding situations after 2018. In a similar way, we hope that water management is more important in such situations, and that we will also come up with strategy and do it. Maybe one last question, I don't know who will be able to answer it, something related to the policy decision of the government, but also to do with hydrology. Maybe like we will request Dr. James to address that. So the question in general talks about what are the roles of the quarries in conservation of water or management of resources, and if it is negative, why the government is still continuously giving permission for quarries. So that is why I said it's policy as well as hydrology, so probably you are the right person to answer it.
It depends on where is the location of your quarry. It's very important. The hydrogeological as well as geological parameters are very important. If you think that it is not in large elevation where there is a possibility for what I call landslide, you call it landslides or whatever it is, mud flow or whatever it is, then we should not store more water there, and that water should not go and then create problem, trigger landslides and landslips and things like that. So location. If it is not in such elevation where you can have landslides and landslips, already somebody has, it is not a caveat for having more quarries permitted. No. What I am saying is not a caveat for more quarries to be permitted. No. What I am saying is that already if there are quarries which are existing, or for some people you have already given the license where the quarries are there, they will dismantle their activities at some point of time, you want to convert it as a water storage structure. If you find that the chances of, after an investigation you find that chances of landslides or mud flows are not there, we have to make use of it. There is nothing wrong in making use of it, because any storage can be added to the existing storages. It is an integrated approach. Whatever storages if we can have, whether it is the reservoirs, so-called reservoirs, or quarries, or even soil is a reservoir, or the riverbed, we have to make use of it if there is a need for local people to make use of it for their benefit. So, once the policy is there, policy will take care of all these aspects. We have to have storages, and already somebody has created a storage. If he can make use of it, we have to make use of it for purposes. If you find that it has got an environmental consequence, sir, you are the environmental impact assessment person there in Tamil Nadu? Yes. If we can conduct an environmental impact assessment, and if we find that we can have it, we will have it. If the environmental impact assessment study says that you can have this quarry, don't use it for it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we are done with most of the discussions. I would request Dr. Krishnakumar to give his final remarks and conclude the session.
Dr. Sudheer, Dr. James, Dr. Sen, and all my friends here. I'll just only take 1 minute to answer your question on quarries. Quarries, of course, states should have a strong policy with reference to quarries, because there's already Government of India's policies there with reference to major minerals and minor minerals. So, as we all know, EIA becomes very important. And this is where I think youngsters should take an interest in understanding environmental impact assessment. Today, the way consultants are growing on environmental issues, because an EIA covers physical features of a landscape which is to be converted for quarry, the biological features, the biodiversity, and then all other studies have to be done. So essentially, we need more people to question the way EIAs are made. And of course, the ECs have environmental clearances, have a lot of conditions, and sometimes the conditions are, they are blamed that they are utopian also, that we try to give the best of conditions. But whether the best of conditions can be implemented in a country like us becomes important. So we generally, if you see an EIA, there are B1 mines, B2 mines, and all these mines, we need a TOR, a terms of reference study, where 6 months to 2 to 3 years time is given before a mine is started. The person has to go and make an intensive study on the hydrogeological features, on the blasting features, the impact of blasting, the socio-economic study, and all other studies will have to be done, including the slope stability, etc. So in this, whether quarries can be used as a water resource, we always say that quarries, once worked as far as possible, particularly if it's lime site and lime quarry, etc., they should be reclaimed and brought to near natural conditions. So that's what our restoration policy is. It is a huge expenditure. Some industries have done it very well. I know certain cases, certain cement industry, captive plantations, they have converted the area into almost near natural by bringing in natural species and elements. So that has come. And quarry research definitely needs deeper understanding in our country, and intensified EAA has to be done. Friends, we conclude that this afternoon's, whole afternoon, we've been discussing on a most important issue called forests for water, forests for security. most of you are champions and brand ambassadors of our country. Maybe you're going to be in the country, maybe you'll work out of the country, but please know that this country is a country with so much of resources. We're sitting on gold mines with reference to all sort of minerals, biodiversity, forests. We know our kith and kin who are abroad in US or many other places, they may have the best of situations, but they don't have the best of condition like the biodiversity that we have, may it be Canada or USA. So we are blessed with so much of biodiversity and natural resources. So all this can come only if we conserve our natural resources. Today, understanding natural resources, the water, the mountains, the streams, all that we have with us becomes very important. You may be in any streams of life. You may be an engineer, you may be a doctor, but I think in your heart there has to be an element of biology in you. Any engineering without understanding of biology, any biotechnology without understanding of biology becomes insignificant in a country like India, which is blessed with so much of biodiversity. So to youngsters like you, I would only say that please carry home this message. You will have to probably become trainers for the students. Now you are all senior students, when there is an opportunity to talk to the younger students, you please talk about this. What this country really requires is investment, innovation, intervention. Investment is what we've been trying to talk to you this morning and the interesting questions that you have asked. So investment can be financial investment, can be social investment, can be physical investment, whatever it is. But I think you should know that for a large country like this, there is not enough investment for natural resource management. The truth is that you will have to accept, may it be water resource management, may it be forest management, may it be biodiversity management, the investment per se. I remember having gone to China 10 years before. The number of forest scientists in India, I keep telling it in any forum possible. I think all over India put together with 23% of the land area under forest, we may have around 150 to 300 scientists, universities and forest research institutes put together for a large country like India. Whereas in China, you have around 4,000 to 5,000 forest scientists apart from the wildlife scientists. Where are the taxonomists? When you talk of water, people were asking very interesting questions. We don't have enough taxonomists. So wherever it is, an element of this bio-life in you has to be indicated in whatever science you're dealing with. Innovations, we have AI technology, etc. Everything is there, but how best we can put them for the benefit of conservation of the natural resources. Today we've been talking of water security. But let us just take this message forward. Forests are important. As a forester, I don't think I am over trying to support forests, but we know that where monocultures have happened, where mixed culture of forests is there with its own elements, where we've been trying today, the Miyawaki system of forests, where we try to, in a small area, intensively we try to raise tree crops. We have seen that wherever possible, urban areas, now see I come from Chennai, and we know how much we suffer sometimes when we don't have good lungs, the tree lungs. So tree lungs produces small microclimates, and then water security becomes very important. What forests required is a participatory approach, which we've been talking for the last 20 years. When 35 years before or 40 years before, when we joined the forest, we were all doing what is called as policing forests. From a policing mode, we have come to a participatory mode where everybody has to own your own resources and feel that this water that we are using is ours, is mine, and is for the future generation. So it becomes important. This is what we've been trying to tell you since morning. The plant productivity, the plant photosynthesis, all this requires water. Without water, there is no life. And this is being told amply, may it be in spiritual discourses, may it be any sort of discourses or classrooms. I think it's not difficult for us to understand. Without water, there is no life. And water, when you say quality water, and all our health, people were talking about mental health, people were talking about prosperity of the country, all this requires water. And what you probably need to do is become champions of water resources. See, activism is something, today we also have judicial activism, but where we don't really need for anybody to tell you that water is required for peace. And take this as a mantra, a yantra and a tantra, that water should definitely be part of an important element in your life. water is as important as air, and this fundamental message should be imbibed in you so that whatever little resource left behind, what Kerala probably has enough water, but there are so much of water-starved states. You may be going there for a job. So what is required is this impression that water is important. You should be carried around with you and see that forests, water, wildlife, and our natural resources are all protected in whatever profession you end up as for the next 30 years. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank all the fellow panelists for joining us this session and having a wonderful discussion. Now over to the organizers.
As we near the conclusion of this session, I request Professor K.P. Sudheer to present a memento to our esteemed guests as a gesture of our gratitude and appreciation. To receive the memento, I invite Dr. E.J. James. I would like to invite Professor Sumit Sen for receiving the memento. I invite Dr. Seena P. for receiving the memento. Next, I would like to invite Dr. N. Krishnakumar for receiving the memento. For receiving the memento, I would like to invite Dr. P. Harinarayanan. Thank you, sir. Now, we request Dr. V. Anita, Research Coordinator and Senior Principal Scientist, KFRI, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the organizing committee, I stand before you to express a heartfelt gratitude for making this World Water Day a resounding success. Forests for Water, fostering prosperity and peace has sparkled an important discussion and shed light on the crucial link for healthy forests and sustainable water future. Firstly, we would like to extend our deepest appreciation to the esteemed dignitaries who grace this occasion with their presence. Professor K.P. Sudheer, Executive Vice President, KSCSTE, and ex-officio Principal Secretary, State Science and Technology Department, and Director in charge, KFRI, for his insightful presidential address. Thank you, sir. Dr. N. Krishnakumar IFS, former PCCF and Head of Forest Coast, Tamil Nadu, and Chairman, Research Council of KFRI, for his inspiring inaugural address and for recognizing crucial connection between water, prosperity, and peace. Thank you to you, sir. We are immensely grateful to the esteemed keynote speakers who shared their invaluable knowledge and expertise. Dr. Sumit Sen, Professor, Department of Hydrology and Head, Center for Excellence in Disaster Mitigation and Management, IIT Roorkee. Shri Pramod G. Krishnan, IFS, Additional PCCF, Kerala Forests and Wildlife Department. Dr. E.J. James, Professor Emeritus and Director, Research and Consultancy, and Vice Chancellor, Karunya University. Thank you, sir. Their presentations on sustainable water resources exploring their vital role of forest hydrology, forest for water, addressing water scarcity and human-wildlife conflicts, and strategies for promoting water scarcity and peace were truly thought-provoking and enlightening. A sincere thank you to our esteemed panel for their insightful discussions on forests for water scarcity, Dr. Krishnakumar, Dr. Sudheer, Dr. Sumit Sen, Dr. Pramod Krishnan, and Dr. E.J. James. Your expertise and perspectives have been definitely invaluable, and this is definitely going to move ahead for us to look at further research avenues on water hydrology. We would also like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Seena P, Professor and Head, Department of Civil Engineering, Government Engineering College, Thrissur, for her kind felicitation. We are also grateful to Dr. P. Harinarayanan, Senior Principal Scientist, KSCSTE, for providing a clear and comprehensive introduction to the program, and to Dr. T.V. Sajid, Chief Scientist and Registrar in Charge, KFRI, for his warm welcome address and introduced our distinguished speakers and guests today. We would also like to express our sincere appreciation to the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Government of India, for their generous sponsorship which made this even possible. A big thank you also goes out to all the participants here from Agriculture Division, State Planning Board, Kerala Agriculture University, Forestry, Kerala Forest Development Corporation, Kottayam, KCAET, Tavalur, State Wetland Authority, Kerala, Soil and Water Conservation Department, Palakkad and Thrissur, IRTC Mundur, CWRDM, State Pollution Control Board, Government Engineering College, and other institutions for your active engagement and participation today. Last but not the least, before I conclude, I would also just like to put a word that the mementos that were presented here is an output of our newly taken Tissue Culture Center at Koyur. So, last but not the least, our gratitude goes to my colleagues Dr. Sandeep, Dr. Pavan, Dr. Srikant, Dr. Jayaraj, Ms. Surya, and the entire organizing team and KFRI fraternity. Their tireless efforts and dedication was instrumental in making this a grand success today. Thank you once again.